Mama and Papa Avery, this one's for you. Just letting you know the world can't see what they have put you through. Not that we could ever fathom or try to imagine the depth of your pain. But the case was a sham, the trial was a scam. The DA's a legal stain. I said, Mama, Papa Avery, we stand with you. No matter what the state says, their lies we see through, because the blood, it was a planet, the car was a planet, Sam William Henry 582. The bones, they were planted, the bullet, yeah, planted, the key in the bedroom too. I said, Mama and Papa Avery, we send our love to you. Just letting you know we can see what they did and continue to do. This one's for you.
Hello, everybody.
You know, we can see what they have put you through.
All right. Hello, everybody. How you doing? So, I'm not exactly sure what's going on with Scooby. I did get a message from Scooby saying she had to walk the dog, and that I could call her, but I don't know. She must be doing something. Didn't hear the phone ring, something. Anyway, she may turn up. She does. We'll add her. But I just thought an interesting thing to look at here, especially with, Johnny's burn barrel video coming up, to just point out, some of the distances here. You know what I mean? So what it comes down to is where Stephen and Barb's trailer are literally right here on this corner where my mouse is, over there at that, upper left corner of the blue area there that says Avery Salvage. So right here is where Stephen and Barb's, trailers are. So the interesting thing is that straight across here, and it's a little over 1,000 feet away, that this is where Josh Redant's deer camp was. So this was something of interest, because they did actually block that deer camp off for an entire evening, kept Josh himself out of there, and had guards, had officers posted to guard it and that sort of stuff. So interestingly, that's so, and Johnny's going to be doing his burn barrel video so that we can see from the distance of 1,000 to say 1,200 feet what a burn barrel fire looks like compared to an open fire, so that we can give some context to Josh Redant's statements when he says it looked to me more like a burn barrel fire, because I've had experience with them and I know the characteristics of burn barrel fires. So in his affidavit, Josh Redant is basically saying he was going on this road the same way my, mouse is going right now. He was going to the deer camp, which is here. Okay. So as he was driving down this road here, he was looking off in this direction. That's what he's saying. So he was looking across this right here. So he's going to be approximately, like I said, we figured out that from the deer camp right here, it was a little over 11 or 1,000 feet, or a little over 1,100 feet. Can't remember exactly what it was. I think it was a little over 1,000 feet. And so you might add 100 or 200 feet if he was looking from back here, but basically we're talking about somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 feet away, and that's what Johnny's video is going to show. And so anyways, let me look at the chat here. Let's see here. It must have been. It must have. I anticipate that Scooby will show up here at some point. There you go. Allie came up with the exact measurement. That's the exact measurement, 1,038.85 feet. And that's from the deer camp to Stevens burn pit, essentially. So the other interesting thing here is obviously if this is the original burn site, as the prosecution would have us believe here in Stevens fire pit, why are we finding bones here and down here? Why in the heck are we finding bones way down there? And the interesting thing is, if we switch to this guy, is we find out that these locations are actually not in the Redont quarry, but these locations where these piles of bones were found were in the Manitowoc gravel pit, the Manitowoc quarry. So I find that interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's just something's not right here. I mean, why are these bones scattered all over the place? It's strange to me. And I remember the hip bone, the part of the hip bone or whatever, I remember that was found here. And I remember that was actually still attached to like another bone. There was still something, some piece of like cartilage or something, like they were just still barely sticking together, hanging on to each other. So that to me tells me that that bone didn't get disturbed very much. Because if it had gotten carried from Stevens burn pit by an animal, then it would have certainly fallen apart. It wouldn't have stayed like, you know, together that well if an animal was dragging it all the way from, like I said, if we look at this again, all the way from over here. We're saying that an animal must have drug a hip bone with another bone still kind of mechanically attached, and that an animal drug this bone all the way through here, all the way down, and all the way down to here. And that bone, and those two bones still stayed like together. So that's weird to me. I don't know how that could happen. Well, most of the bones I would say were probably found in Stevens burn pit, but it was only 40 to 60%. And like I said, you had piles here and you had two piles down here, right? So I'm not exactly, and among these piles, it's clear that some of the bones were animal bones. So not all the bones found in these piles here were all possibly human. Some of them were basically identified as animal bones. Why would they give those? Yeah, I mean, why would they give these? I mean, that's the other part of it is, right? I mean, why would they give these bones to the hall box? If these bones, if Ken Kratz wasn't even willing to spend 20 seconds on these bones because they were only classified as possible human, then why are they giving these bones back to the hall box? And why are they giving bones from any of these piles back to the hall box? So, and like I've been saying, that to me, even though Travis says the courts don't see it the same way, but that to me is pretty much a stipulation. They're stipulating, yes, these bones are Teresa's. By us giving them back to the family, we are stipulating that these bones belong to Teresa. That's to me the way I think that should work. But apparently Travis says that's not the way that legally, that's not the way that shakes out. So, oh well, I guess. Anything that you think would make sense, you can bet that the courts won't allow it. I think it was like burned cartilage or something. I don't think it was really like good tissue. I just think it was just happened to still be hanging on just by like a thread, basically. Which, like I keep saying, is a sign that it fell while it was, maybe still hot. And then the heat eventually broke down that cartilage and stuff even more. But to me, it shows that for them to still have had any kind of attachment at all, even though it was probably very, very, ginger, and as soon as somebody probably touched that bone, it probably fell apart, or the two bones probably separated. But yeah, the fact that they were still looked connected in any way, to me, shows that they must have fallen, and while they still had a little bit of connection, but were hot, and then that heat just eroded or heated up that tissue, whatever it was, that cartilage or whatever it was that was holding the things together. This is a theory, obviously, but that it was heating those things up and continued to wear that down even more. That's my guess. Because I'm sure that these two bones, when they got picked up during the investigation, they probably just fell apart when they were getting picked up. Anyway. Ali, based on the normal size fee. Hey, Paul, you got to stay on topic, buddy. When I watched Ali's video about the bones, and nine were from the Quarry versus 1 from the SA pit. Come on, SA was not the primary burn site. I agree that I don't think Stevens was the primary burn site either. I mean, if it was, they would have taken pictures of it. They would have been all too happy and proud to take the pictures that prove that. But, that's not what happened. That number has been upped to 10 that I've confirmed now. Yeah. Let's see. Is this them blatantly showing everyone they have power, or are they really thinking of hiding this from everyone? I don't know if they're going to be able to hide it, but they're probably going to keep trying. They're going to continue to try to get out of this no matter what. I mean, they're in for a penny, they're in for a pound. They're in it for the long haul now. They're going to try to cover their butt and pray for a miracle. I was a winner of a Brennan t-shirt, but never received it. Oh, JD McLaren. Yes, I'm getting those out. Yes, it's coming. It's coming, JD. Marissa's are getting hers as well. Wonder if there's any marrow in any of the bones that can be tested. Yeah, I would imagine there isn't, but maybe. If you listen to what Johnny said, he really looks at those bones. He thinks they were in a crematory level heat because of the way that the bones look so well cooked. So we'll have to see how that all shakes out, of course. The yellow lines are dogs. Yeah, I believe those are the dogs, where the dogs, went. Hello, Amber. Let's see. I know it's a question that has been sent to Scooby. Yeah. Well, if Scooby doesn't show up tonight, folks, then we'll have Scooby on tomorrow night, and her and I will make sure, and I'll get her in a headlock if I have to, and pin down the time. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't put Scooby in a headlock. Anyway, no, but we'll pin down the time and we'll do it tomorrow instead. But we already have everybody's questions, so that's half of it already done. It's actually will give more people time. If more people think of another question by tomorrow, they can go to that video and add it, and that can potentially get added to my talk with Scooby tomorrow, because I think that's the way it's going to go. It's getting pretty late now. I know you night owls will probably be down to go over and talk about the other thing on my other channel with me and Travis and possibly Mr. Capaldi. So, you know, we can do Scooby tomorrow, and hopefully, having these screenshots will inform the conversation that we have with Scooby tomorrow as well. I just think the distances here on everything is just extremely interesting. I mean, it's just, how are these bones so far away? If it's just bizarre to me. This whole situation, this whole thing is just so bizarre. And the only real reason I can come up to explain with why everything is so bizarre in this case is because humans were trying to manufacture something. And in that trying to manufacture something, they do what most humans do when they try to manufacture a scenario like this, and they make mistakes. And that's what I truly believe happened here, because there's just too much just ridiculous crap when it comes to this case. Just so much. I mean, it's 1,000 feet from here to here, right? It's got to be at least almost 2,000 or almost 3,000 feet probably to here. Yeah, it's just strange to me. And why are these dogs all over these quarries? And I mean, look at how many times the lines go into Avery Salvage. Very little. Out on the fringe here. They go in a little bit, go right back out, and it's all about being over here and on this road and coming down this way. And I mean, the lines, these dogs are all active in these areas here. That's just, I find that interesting. And active up here. But I mean, when you look at where these, they were starting these dogs on Avery Salvage, I'm sure, and they were hoping that these dogs were going to be going all over, and that these yellow lines were going to be all over Avery Salvage. But that's not what happened, really, honestly. So anyway, the suspected burial site. That would have been at the end of Cuss Road. Shoot. I'm actually not 100% sure of that, Travis. I know that this is County Q. Let's look at the other map. Oh, I see. You're saying where they went into the yard? Hold on. Do you want to join, Travis? Travis, check your hangout. Oh boy. All right, Travis, you got a link to get in. You're saying the link doesn't work, Trav? I don't know why that would be. That's the same way I send them to you every other time. Anyway, so hopefully if you get in here, Trav, you can be part of the call and you can try to inform the conversation, as it were. So let's see. Oh, there he is. What's up, buddy?
Hey.
So, there he is. Oh, you got YouTube still unmuted, buddy. You got to mute that.
Okay, let me fix that. Sorry.
Oh, you got YouTube still unmuted, buddy. You got to mute that.
Okay, let me fix that. Sorry.
All right. Well, hopefully that'll stop now.
Is that better?
I think so. Okay. Let me see.
Oh my God.
Let me just make sure it's not on my end here. There. That's
Hang on.
Oh my God. Make sure it's not on my end here.
I apologize, everybody. Jesus Christ. I didn't say that in a religious context, by the way.
Okay, good, because that's not allowed here.
Learned my lesson on that. Never analogize.
Hey, like I said, man, stay away from politics and religion on this channel. It's controversial enough already.
Am I talking slow?
See, I think the feedback's gone now, so I think at least that part's done.
Okay, good.
Hey, Linda, where's our Jello shots? Anyway, I'm sorry. Never mind. That's off topic. Anyways, so where is on this map, Travis? Where exactly is Kuss Road? Because the burial site was at the end of Kuss Road. Am I not? I mean, if I remember correctly.
Isn't it down here?
Down in the bottom left?
No, to the right. Go to the right. Right there. Isn't that Kuss Road?
Over here? Okay. Okay, so then that would be where the suspected burial site is?
Correct.
It's at the end of Kuss Road, right? I remember that. So, okay, so there. So that's interesting. So if we have the suspected burial site here, we have the bones being found over here, and Stephen's burn pit is way the flip over here. That's interesting.
And then, we got, well, I mean, Kathleen Zellner, was very quick to point this out. These are actually, obviously, maps that she created, and these dog tracks.
Right.
Allie brought up a good point. I do know a couple of dog people that have certified dogs for cadavers and human scent tracking, and I wasn't even aware that they had GPS monitors on them.
Oh, okay, they're correcting me, Travis. They're saying, okay, Cuss Road is here.
Okay, all right. I couldn't remember if it's.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I mean, still, these things are doing a hell of a lot of moving. I mean, just, I don't know. I don't know how. It's just, for me, it's interesting. It would be interesting to figure out how these bones got scattered. I don't think it was animals. I just don't.
What's that area that they're down in that bottom right that I was incorrect on? That's Cuss Road. Something was going on down there.
That's just going out of the quarry, it looks like.
There's something significant about that bottom right-hand area that you're pointing at right now. Does Allie remember?
Let's see. When the dog alerted to burial site, wasn't even. No, I don't know if Allie's caught on yet. What that we were saying. I'm actually not sure what is down there, but it looks like only one dog went off in that direction, though. And it does seem pretty clear that all the activity gets, kind of. Well, I don't know. There's quite a bit up here by the suspected burial site on Cuss Road as well. So, let's see. She said she's not aware. It's just another quarry. It doesn't look like a real road either. Well, it looks like it might meet a real road there. This might be a real road. I don't know, but
yeah, it says they're right. The post crash at least reported, there's in 2016 that there's questions about a suspected burial of Cuss Road. And Cuss Road is the one that leads into the Redont property, correct?
Yeah, I believe Cuss Road will.
Cuss Road kind of ends, and then the dirt road to the deer camp starts.
Right, I believe so. Yes. Yeah, I believe there's some road. Well, there you got the dog. Well, yeah, look, the dogs came this way. Right here. They also came through here.
Well, yeah, where you're at right now, why that's important is
that the road that Redont would take to come up behind Steven's trailer?
No, trace it down the other way. See where it splits, backtrack. Now go south from there, down. The dogs, a cadaver dog and a scent dog followed, and then go back the other way, So they followed there, and then they went right through the conveyor road. Now go down, and then they went right there, straight to
the route. Right.
And so that was very significant for Kathleen Zellner, is that the dogs went from that suspected burial site, and they went right down the conveyor road
to this,
right through that gap in the berm, straight to the RAV. Then the other thing that was significant that Adrian had pointed out at one point is the dogs hit on a car, and strongly hit, and they open up that trunk and they find boots, camouflage boots, and women's underwear. And that never gets tested. And then I believe the dogs were kind of interested in that unoccupied white trailer where they found purple thong underwear that Kathleen Zellner in her meetings described as being, quote, similar, unquote, to underwear that was found in Teresa's house. You know, nothing ever got done with that.
Right.
But I think people are, you know, hitting on the fact about the, you know, these bone piles and whatnot. Can I take control just for a minute of?
You want to screen share? Go ahead. Yeah, I've given it up. So go ahead.
This is from the presentation you and I did on the 17th when our motion came out. Can you see that? Is my screen up?
Yes. Yep. I locked you in, so go ahead.
Okay, so this was one of the exhibits to our motion to stay and for remand. And so, you know, we have 3 piles at play. You know, so 7411, calcined bone fragments, possible cut edges. It's from number 3, 7412, human and non-human bone, non-biological materials, some bone not calcined, which means it would be likely, much more likely to have, be able to get a DNA read off of that. And when we get Scooby in here, when you get Scooby in here, she can talk more about that. 5 of 13 burn calcine with cut edges. Most bone fragments are all cut bone fragments or human. 7414 burn calcine bone, human bone fragments. 7416 human bone fragments. Human is calcined with 1 cut edge.
Mm-hmm.
Then here, the remaining 2. So the pelvic bones are Quarry pile 1. Everything we've talked about up here, we got 3. We got some human and non-human with pelvic bones. Then we got Quarry pile 3. Then 2, we got cut burned human bone.
Right.
And then these that are not marked aren't referenced as being returned to the Halbox and queso.
Right.
So, you know, then the last one, of course, is the pelvic bones. At least 7, 4 are calcined fragments, unknown origin. 7 appear to be all from the pelvis. That's all I wanted to show. So I'm going to hit stop sharing and then should go back to you.
Yeah.
So
I don't really see what bones they could have been giving out of those evidence bags that would be, I mean, that wouldn't have been human bone. I mean, I don't know what people could be speculating as to what they gave out of those, you know, basically what were piles of bones. Why would they I mean, the only thing I can imagine they would have given were human fragments. And I don't understand this dispute of what they think. People think that, well, maybe they didn't give them the human fragments. Well, then what do you think they gave them? Animal bones? You think they gave the Halbox animal bones? I don't know. I don't understand that argument exactly, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, that makes no sense. Now, I think what you can say about queso on that is that, you know, it's not super specific, but I mean, Hawkins' documents, he talks about, says, okay, Gaughan's coming and Fossbender, and, you know, it's 2011. We're going to be they want me to pull these items out so that bones can be returned to the Halbach family. And then they talk about, Gahn and Fossbender personally supervised this. And they say they have their forensic anthropologist's report. They're going by that. And he does discuss separating non-human material. And we just saw that in one of the numbers we just went through. Non-human material, human bone material from bone material. But that was separated out. No, it doesn't specify, like item 714. There were 18 fragments, and those were all put in a receptacle. Because Paul's here, if he's still here, Big Lebowski, receptacle, Paul, that's the coffee can. They didn't say that, but the preface to it, when all of these items were returned, it was specifically they were reviewing materials in these lots, 7411, 7412. They're reviewing this group of material for the purposes of returning bones to the family. And so, no, they don't conclude, they don't, who knows, maybe they kept half. I don't know. And then a lot of people have asked, one of the most compelling questions that came up at the time. No, it's not legally binding. This returning of the bones isn't legally binding in court, that they're human and they're Teresa. They're not binding from a legal standpoint, but, logically, they argued in court in front of that family that, one, they only argued about one pile, and we ended up, now we got 3 piles, and we know where there are. And that doesn't even make sense because they're 400 yards apart. But the contention of the state at trial was those bones weren't human. That they weren't Teresa, and whatever they were, the primary burn.
And if they are, it changes the shape of the narrative. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I don't think, Allie can correct me if I'm wrong, or you, we don't know at this point what they told the Halbach family with regard to these bones being returned. The CASO says they were returned to the funeral home that they'd been dealing with since the beginning, that made all the arrangements from the get-go. The Whiting Funeral Home, I believe the name of it is. They said that they were returned there. We don't know if there was a family representative there at the time. We don't know what sort of communications there were, but obviously there were communications. Either, the family said, hey, it's been how many ever years, can we get those bones back? There must have been some communication prior, and then they went and did it. I think my reading of the preservation statute, in direct contravention of the statute, direct violation of the statute, and Buting agrees with me on this, or I agree with Buting on this, whichever way you want to put it. His tweets came out after our presentation, but to me, it was a clear violation of the statute for them to give up those bones because he's still in prison. And you can't release any biological matter until the person's either out of prison, or dies, or even a co-defendant is still in prison or dies. So, in any event, we don't know what the Halbachs were told with regard to that.
All right, everybody, I'm trying to get Scooby in right now here. She's ready. Let me see here.
Was it Is it Folgers or MJB? Can't remember. But they bought it at Ralph's Supermarket, right? Ralph's is a big chain. They're still in California, aren't they?
They're still Ralph's, yeah.
Now, was that guy British? That arrogant bastard at the funeral home in Big Lebowski? That's our lowest cost receptacles.
Yeah, sounds British to me.
I think that guy was
condescendingly British.
That's our most modest receptacles.
All right, you guys get Scooby to the link here. Hold on. You just put it.
While you're doing that, Erekose, I just want to say, I don't know if people are aware, Paul is a great guy and great sense of humor, and we say all of this stuff in fun.
Yeah.
He dishes it out better than he gets it, but the stuff we're saying about Paul is all tongue in cheek. If you haven't been following the saga over in the other channel,
Paul said that.
he had another video today where he's roughing you up some more.
Yeah, no, I saw it.
He says names like of the 4 crew persons on the Guppy, names like Alfie and Carlisle have no significance whatsoever. You notice he didn't answer the question about who his British captain cartoon character, what his first name is. He didn't answer the question because we started this and it wouldn't have been appropriate. But you got
wasn't it Mr. Wizzles or Wizzles or something like that? Captain Wiggles or something? I don't know. Can't remember. I know he
Captain Wiggle. Oh man.
Let's see.
Captain Wiggles is probably in prison.
Anyways, we'll save that for the later discussion.
Yeah. Is you have Scooby?
Trying.
Okay.
It's like she comes through and then she goes away. I can't. It's bizarre. She comes in, she writes me a book, and then I can't get her back. Let's see what's going on in Hangouts.
Pug wash.
Oh, that's what it was. Pug wash.
They got a dog washing captain. Do you know what his first name was?
I don't.
Horatio.
Ah, there you go. Another English captain. Another one.
He leaves that part out, of course.
Of course he does.
If we're going to invent a stereotypical British captain, what should we name him?
Let's see. I don't know.
Horatio.
Yeah. Or Magellan. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. I'm still trying to find Scooby, but I'm trying to get her in here anyway.
Okay. Well, does anyone have any questions on the bones?
Yeah, if we can talk about the bones, if you guys have anything.
Got all this dead air.
Exactly.
But
And like I said, if Scooby doesn't pop in within the next 5 or 10 minutes, we're just going to put it off till tomorrow. So rather than trying to force a square peg through a round hole, I'm just inclined to let it go till tomorrow. Let's see what we got.
I agree, Denise. Whoever's got Scooby locked up.
Well, we know Scooby's okay, but we just, don't know exactly what she's doing. She's kind of busy, I think, or something.
I don't know if Paul saw while you're doing that. Let me.
Has the Hallbach family responded to any of this stuff? Has anyone ever tried to reach out to them diplomatically? Of course, I personally have never tried to reach out to the Hallbachs. I personally won't, just because I feel like the subject matter on my channel, that they just would not be receptive. I think they might be insulted by it. So I personally haven't. As far as I know, they haven't commented. I figure if they have commented, I would know about it, but I haven't heard anything. So, but hi, Michelle Moore. How you doing?
So while we're waiting for her, let's see. I don't know. Can they see that? Can you see that?
Yeah. I saw something for a second there. Hold on, let me lock you in. Yeah. Is that Shaggy and Scooby?
Yeah, I don't know if Paul saw this. I'm always on. I wanted to show him. This is back a few days ago when we were pretty sure that he'd come up with a fake that's Shaggy right there with
right.
Scooby.
Right.
And
yep, Scooby's a nice looking pup. So,
but
to answer your question, Michelle Moore,
we had our Cracker Jack team.
All right.
Going.
We'll have to save those for the video on my other channel, and show those off there. Nice looking dog, though. But to answer your question, Michelle Moore, no. As far as I know, there has been absolutely zero response, even in regards to the bones being, this whole bone situation. So as far as I know, there's been nothing from the Hallbach family, and I don't know if anybody has tried to diplomatically reach out to them about it. Let's see if they test the bones and they are THs. What's next? Same question. If they're not, so that goes along with her whole argument that she's going to say, look, if we're finding Teresa's bones all over these other quarries, and we have a burial site that's off of the Avery Salvage, and all the dogs were active in these quarries, it leads one to believe that where this crime actually happened was not at Stephen Avery's, but somewhere else. And it doesn't make sense that Stephen would have drugged the bones back to his own doorstep. No matter how dumb you are, no matter how stupid you are, pretty much no matter how dumb you are, you would never do that. If for no other reason, you wouldn't want to be bothered with carrying them, So
Christina had a question. I don't know if someone's got one above that, but how can Brendan be freed when Brendan is on a different track. He pursued the writ of habeas corpus in federal court and took that as far as it could go to a writ of cert being denied by the United States Supreme Court. His two lawyers, Laura Nyrider and help me with the other one.
Stephen Drizzen, Professor Drizzen.
Stephen, they just did recently a podcast. They were guests of somebody talking about false juvenile confessions and so on and so forth. But they've indicated, they're still working on Brendan's case, and he's got two main avenues. He's got an outside, out of court option, which is clemency or a pardon.
Right.
So when the new governor comes in, whenever they're sworn in Wisconsin, early January sometime, hopefully there's an organized effort, because, his legal teams mentioned this, but I'm hoping there's some infrastructure in place to start the process of putting that together to apply for clemency or a pardon. Clemency would be that his sentence is commuted down, could be to time served, could, be that they cut the sentence in half. A pardon would be that he's found innocent, has no legal restraint or inhibitions, like not precluded from voting, he's not precluded from owning a gun, all the things that attach, the collateral consequences of having a felony conviction. That's one option that he's got. And then the second option that they've discussed is that he still can bring a motion under 97406 at any time, but it's got to be something that he hasn't raised before. So it could be it's constitutional error. It could be can't be on anything that he's raised before. So it can't be that his confession was coerced, but it could be if Stephen, through Kathleen Zellner, finds a Brady violation. She gets the court on appeal to find, like, this computer information, for example, was covered by Brady and was a violation. Then Brendan can use that and he can file his own motion for 974.
That's what I've been hoping for, is that something would be able to be used for him from what Zellner's digging up. And that's kind of been my hope.
And then the same would be true if it was newly discovered evidence that showed Brendan's actual innocence. And he would be able to use that. But so right now he is riding the coattails of Stephen on that part of it. But
that's why I'm going to suggest that, obviously those are his two options. Sorry to cut you off, but if those are his two options, then I'm going to go ahead and say this is probably something all of us should start thinking about, because if you're really wanting to help Brennan at this point, a good thing to do would be to trying to get the governor's attention, the new governor's attention. That's what Stephen Drizzen has said is one of Brendan's best options, is to trying to get the governor's attention and get the governor to give clemency, as Travis was just talking about, or a pardon potentially. So here's my thoughts, and you guys can toss this around over the next couple of months and see what you think about it. But there's going to be a one-day rally in Manitowoc in June. I'm thinking, it's probably going to be on a Friday. But my thought is that we pick either the day before that or the day after that, since there's already going to be a lot of people there, since there's already going to be a group of people who are, minded, of the mind to want to help Brendan and everything. And we plan for the second day to head over to Madison and kind of petition out or picket or, demonstrate out on the, steps over in Madison and try to, create some noise for Brendan in that way. And the reason why I'm suggesting it this way is because obviously we'll already have a large group of people there already gathered together, already assembled. We only need to move them about 50 miles, 100 miles down the road to Madison, essentially. So that's something that if you guys are interested in it, if it sounds good to you, think about it. Let's do it. Let's get it done. Because obviously, we want to keep Brendan in constantly coming up, so that Wisconsin cannot sneeze without Brendan being thrown in their face, or can't turn around without Brendan being thrown in their face. So I think this is a powerful way that we can make people know, make it known that Brendan's plight is dear to a lot of people.
So Denise brought up, and I'm sure Allie and you, Erekose, met this person. I saw her on MAM2, I believe. Maybe it was 1. At one point, there was a move afoot to establish a Brendan's law about you can't obtain a confession of a juvenile, can't interrogate or question a juvenile without either a lawyer or a parent being present.
I believe that's the Parb Taddock law.
And I don't know where that went, but they in Making a Murderer 1 or 2, they showed a person from that organization spoke briefly and said, "I'm trying to get this law passed."
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where that law went or how far it went, but
they're still gathering signatures.
Pardon?
They're still gathering signatures.
Okay. Well, you know, that's something that needs to be explored is, you know, how organized is their organization? You know, what kind of contacts do they have with legislators and the governor's office? And then somebody needs to be in touch with Steve and Laura to see if they've already, they have things in place or they have ideas, because you always want to, you know, an application's filed for clemency by lawyers with the governor.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to see where they're at with that and what citizens and supporters can do to work with them.
Right. Certainly.
But you know, I'm sure they would tell you, yeah, we welcome some sort of a organized demonstration. You know, that would be in Madison.
You guys will keep it organized for me, right? You guys will keep it organized for me, right? Right, guys? No, go ahead, Jarvis. Sorry.
No, but that's an excellent point. But I just saw somebody asked Allie to post Brendan's law, and I assume that's what that was, but I'd forgotten.
They weren't able to call it Brendan's law, I guess, because he's actually in prison. And so I guess you can't actually name it after him, I guess. It was something along those lines, and they had to call it the Parb Taddock law. That's what I remember anyway. But sorry.
No,
so it looks like a lot of people here would be interested in doing that. So remember, when you're planning your trip for the rally, keep in mind we might be planning a little something either the day before or the day after, so you might need to allow for that. Just keep that in mind. Well, as if and or when this fleshes out over the next couple months, we'll come to a decision whether it's going to be the day before or after, and you guys will be able to book your trips accordingly. We'll definitely try to get it to. We'll try to come up with a somewhat solid plan 3 months in advance, so that I know that's about the right time to book the plane tickets to get them the cheapest. So we'll try to have that. If this all fleshes out, we'll try to make that where we've got that decided what day everybody's going to be there, which day will be best before or after the rally, and we'll get that all ironed out. If in fact this becomes something that people really get behind.
One of your subscribers, David Schultz, lives in Madison. Keep that in the back of your mind. Do you know David? Have you spoken with him? David Schultz?
I think a few times, yeah.
So he would be a good resource in terms of he says Justice for All is his favorite album of all time.
He said, which is his favorite? I'm sorry.
Justice for All. Justice.
Oh, he's talking about my shirt. Yeah. It's a good album. And Justice for All.
Paul Capaldi. Hey, dudes, is Xander Road still the place that Teresa was possibly first burnt, then the gravel pit, then the aluminum smelter?
All I can say, Paul, is I think it's a possibility. I don't know how many times these bones moved.
Where's Xander Road? I've heard the name.
It's about 4.5 miles north of Avery Salvage.
Is that where they originally spotted the car, or is that something else?
No, this is where a very foul-smelling fire was.
Okay, I got you.
Let's see here. What do we got? In my opinion, the cops must have been certain they were her bones in order to give them to the family. I agree. I totally agree. I believe that basically should be amount to a stipulation, that they are basically stipulating that those bones are Teresa. That's the way I feel about it, but Travis tells me that's not the way it shakes out in court. Yeah, that makes sense. Judicially speaking, you can't name a law after a convicted felon. Okay, so there's confirmation on that. Let's see.
Well, that's funny, isn't it? What do we refer to laws in states where it's a convicted murderer cannot earn money off of a book or any other artistic work?
Right.
We call those Son of Sam laws, but those are informal names.
Right. I was under the impression they would not accept a pardon. Has that changed? Karen, when it comes to Stephen, you're absolutely 100% correct. Zellner will not be settling for anything less than they admit they were wrong, and Stephen then goes into civil court on this. So when it comes to Stephen, yes, 100% correct. That is not a possibility. Alfred plea is out. Pardon is out. Clemency is out. All those things are out when it comes to Stephen. With Brendan, it's a little different story. His lawyers have a little more of a progressive kind of look on it, I guess, or something. They just have a slightly different outlook than KZ has. And basically, they're willing to get Brendan out and then continue fighting to exonerate him if they have to. They have a more of that kind of an attitude. They're not necessarily looking to recoup their losses, although and I'm sure they've spent a buttload of money on Brendan's case up to this point. But thanks to the people that love Brendan out there, they've been, donating and helping the, the Northwestern Law Clinic there and the Center for the Wrongful Convictions of Youth. So hopefully they've been able to keep the show running there. And certainly Brendan's case has brought them a lot of attention and notoriety, which is also helping them grow the clinic's, effectiveness and that sort of thing. So
Karen also is wondering, there are many different conditions that can be attached to clemency and pardon. One could be an acknowledgement of guilt, and then or debriefing and providing evidence against your co-defendant, which in this case would be Stephen Avery. It's hard to say what, if any, conditions the governor, got to wait, let him get into office, and then I'm sure somebody's going to be broaching that office about, would you even consider it? And they have people within the governor's office that are liaisons that kind of discuss things. And this is high profile enough that if something ends up being sent to the governor's office, it's going to be looked at and it's going to be discussed in a press release or something. And so you lay a lot of groundwork ahead of time for this stuff. But I think what Karen's asking is, if they said the only way the governor is going to grant a pardon is if Brendan confesses, I don't know what they would do. Now there's precedent for clemency and pardons being granted to people without any type of an acknowledgement of guilt. I'll give you two of the most famous ones. Jimmy Hoffa, his sentence was commuted by Nixon, whoever, without any letter of apology or I'm sorry, this, that, the other thing. But Jimmy Hoffa's sentence was commuted with the stipulation that he never hold an office or be involved with the Teamsters Union for life. And then the other really famous one is President Clinton pardoned Patty Hearst. without getting any type. She didn't even have an application in, any pardon, full pardon. And she never admitted, had to admit guilt.
Okay. Let's see. Denise is asking this. Can Travis explain why Zellner's rapid DNA testing is not dead in the water? Explain 97406 and 97407 and how they come into play with the refiling of that.
I'll try. I'll try not to talk slow, and I'll try not to be morbid about it, but it's confusing. And even amongst legal analysts in Wisconsin, it's confusing, and there's not 100% agreement. Right. So 9406, I'm just going to call it a 06. An 06 motion, anyone can file who's in prison or under a legal disability like probation. If you're in prison and you believe you have constitutional grounds to reverse your conviction or get a new trial, such as ineffective assistance of counsel, Brady violation, you can file a 974-06 motion at any time. 07 is motion for DNA testing. And that's a much newer statute, relatively speaking. It came in Wisconsin,
along with DNA,
many other states at the turn of the century. Can you believe we're using that term at the turn of the century? Around 2000, the statute came in because in the late 90s, DNA was really rolling. And the statute, the DNA testing statute says a defendant in prison at any time can file a motion to have biological material tested based on 3 conditions. One is that it's relevant to the case. So if they find bones 50 miles from a murder site, or they find a bloody rag 300 miles from a crime scene or murder site, no, you don't get testing. But if they find a bloody rag in the backyard, and it was never tested, or they find bones 1,100 feet that were never tested, it's relevant. You can show it's relevant if it's in the custody or control of the state and it hasn't been tested before, or if it has been tested, but there are now newer testing techniques. Right. You have an absolute right to test. So Zellner filed the motion to stay and for remand to say, hey, rather than go through with this appeal, when we know there's some relevant biological material that hasn't been tested, and we now know that there's a good test for it based on the identity of bodies in those California
fires, right?
Let's hold off on this appeal just for a little bit, a month or two. Get this stuff tested, see what the results are, and then we'll fold that into this appeal we have going, this 06 appeal, and then they can, just go up together and be handled together.
Right.
And they said no. So does that mean she can't test? No, it does not mean that. She can test at the appropriate time. What the disagreement is the way I read the 07 statute is that the statute clearly says, 07, that you need to file your petition for testing in the circuit court. Well, she kind of, she filed it in the Court of Appeals saying, hey, let's hold off on this appeal while I do this. And I think she was hoping they came back and said, yeah, we agree, file your petition for DNA testing post haste in the circuit court. Well, they said, no, we're not going to hold off. I think she could file Monday, if that's not a legal holiday, or the first non-legal holiday, whatever that is, Wednesday. I think she could file a petition in the circuit court for DNA testing under 974-07.
Right.
there are some legal analysts who disagree with me on that and say, because she has the 06 motion pending, she cannot file another petition in circuit court. That the circuit court has lost all jurisdiction to hear any type of petition related to Stephen Avery, that she would have to wait until her 06 motion goes all the way through the appeals process, or she has to dismiss or appeal and go forward with the testing. I don't think she's going to dismiss her appeal. She did that in the past, but there's a completely different situation now. She spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on testing since then. She's gotten the results of that testing. She's laid out what her best theory of the case is. She's laid out what all the errors are. But and she's still got her point across. That court's going to know, well, shoot, maybe we should have let her do the testing. They could change their mind on it. But as far as the motion being denied for remand and stay, it's as if nothing happened.
Right.
It's
just postponed her filing, basically, is all it's done.
Very good. From the 20th to February 1st.
Right. That's literally all it's done. And we know that she has the option now. The quick DNA option's still out there. It's another way if for some reason things don't go quite the way she anticipated with this appeal, she still has a way to get her foot back in the door. So for me, it's just another tool she can use. So it's kind of nice to know it's there. I don't know. That's the way I look at it anyway.
You're absolutely right. I hope we answered
so,
the question.
Rissa is asking, does Travis feel that KZ is making any mistakes in the way that she's doing things? It's a setup. She's trying to get you to say things bad about KZ. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that other YouTuber does. I mean, but
yeah, that's true.
That other YouTuber doesn't have a clue about how things are done. It's just really disgusting how that other YouTuber can pass out criticism for Kathleen Zellner, but Kathleen Zellner's done more in 2.5 years, whatever time she's had the case, than anybody else has done in the 6 or 7 years prior. Are there things I would have done a little bit differently? Yeah, but I don't have 20 exonerations under my belt. What do I know?
Right, exactly. Right.
I think the top tier of post-conviction attorneys would say that they would do things a little bit differently than she's done, but that's just their style. And they would say it doesn't necessarily make them wrong or mistakes. Mm-hmm. But her proof's in the pudding. Anybody that says something simplistic, like it doesn't seem to me like she's doing anything, just doesn't have the first clue about how post-conviction legal work's done.
Right. I think it's funny when you hear the guilters say, "Oh yeah, she's been laughed out of court. She's been blah 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 blah." Oh yeah. In the bias courts that don't want to let any of this, of course, she's been getting laughed out of court by the likes of Judge Angela, who's like best friends with Kratz, and the clear bias that she's had in the past, like that Hallbach case that she wouldn't drop, even though they had dropped it, she wouldn't let it go. Stephen actually had to end up getting like an order from the courts to get her to eventually sign, from the appeals court to get her to eventually sign that and drop the case that the Hallbox had already tried to drop. I mean, there's so much stuff with Judge Angela, but of course they're not getting any play there. But hopefully with the appeals court, she will. That's, hopefully. And then hopefully we get a different judge, because God, Judge Angela Sukowicz is just not going to be helpful at all in any of this. All she has is obstruction. Let's see here. Somebody's asking, do you think that this was a way for KZ to hang out until a new governor is sworn in? Do you think having a new governor would make any difference for KZ?
I don't think so. The four judges that comprise the Second Circuit Court of Appeals,
Right.
They're in. There's no vacancy. There's no vacancy that's going to be filled. Her brief was originally due 12/20.
So basically, governor really, there's nothing. He can't appoint a new judge. There's just really nothing.
The state's brief was going to be due, in January or February if they got an extension. It was going to be where it was. I think she laid out in her brief the timing for it. This guy just got this type of testing approved with the FBI and CODIS, and then he actually was able to have a practical application of it with the burn people. She gives the date when she notifies him and sends him the material. She gives a date when he gets back to her, and then that motion's filed within a week or two. I think it's coincidental that it ended up being, just 3 days before a brief was due. But she laid that out very, very carefully, which is what we anticipated. That, she would be very careful to lay out to the court, why it was at this seemingly late date, she filed the brief when she did. And she explained the date for it. But no, I don't really think it had anything to do with when a new governor's coming in.
Yeah. So, right. So there's this only way he could have play would be if there was like empty seats he could fill or anything like that, which there aren't, right? So, yeah.
Karen asked if this is still getting media coverage in the U.S. She's in Australia, if people don't know, and follows the case very closely. You and Allie would know better on that, and some of your other subscribers. That locally, I think it does get coverage when even little things happen, like when the brief's due, or if she's wanting to test more bones and whatnot. It gets coverage with the Crescent.
I would say Zellner's getting more interviews now with like magazines, so that keeps it in the press.
Nationally, I think it still gets coverage, but only on big things. Like when she files her brief, I think there's going to be some national coverage on it about certain things, little snippets that she has in there. Who knows? She may even make Nancy Grace when she files her brief. Certainly if oral arguments are going to be scheduled on this, I think there's going to be
a buzz. Sure. Yeah.
And, she's pretty astute at using the media. Some people are critical of it, but I like her style with it. She, in those areas outside of Wisconsin where it maybe has died down, people, you have the big rush of people watching the MAMs, and then it kind of dies down, and then but she stirs that interest back up by doing these tweets and having these press conferences, like when she filed the motion for testing and so on and so forth. I I think she's very astute.
Just think about her filing this thing for quick DNA testing. Look at what she's done just with us. We all figured out that these bones, that there's potentially an issue here. Had she not filed that, we might not have really noticed, right? But now we know that. I mean, so yeah, there is a certain brilliance to what she's doing. Even if she knew, even if that got denied, she was going to be educating a hell of a lot of us, and that we were going to then be talking about it. So I mean,
before that, we think on purpose she kind of not hides, but she puts something in there that's just not right in your face,
right?
But she knows people who really follow the case are going to jump on immediately.
Right. Yeah. So I think I think there's a certain amount of genius, I think, to what she does. Her Twitter feeds, definitely. Those things are so popular. Whenever she does those and we cover it, I mean, those videos are all just getting up in like 5,000-6,000 views. People just love those ones. They love to see what she was saying about on Twitter and what she was talking about on Twitter. It's amazing. But people go for that.
Karen, does it get any coverage in Australia down under at all, or is it primarily on social media and YouTube channels like Erekose?
So instead of TMZ 30 mile zone, it's KMZ, Kangaroo Mile Zone. No, I'm just kidding.
And I wonder, did it ever get any press versus, making a murderer? Did it ever receive press attention?
I swear I saw a Facebook post the other day where somebody in Australia was had taken a picture of a billboard that was in support of Stephen and Brendan. I swear I saw that.
Really?
Yeah. Was it Australia? Maybe. I wish I remember now exactly where I saw it. Deborah says she gets all of her information from the net and from YouTube. Okay. And I am by far the best. I am the best and favorite and informed in Australia.
She certainly is well informed. I've heard her speak on your channel, and there's no question she's well informed. No question about that at all. Australia, they kind of went. I don't know what would be the defining case in the U.S. in terms of publicized, televised murder. Obviously, television. The top two are going to be, OJ's what people are going to point to. But actually, before OJ, there was Court TV had the William French Kennedy Smith trial, and that happened down in Palm Beach, and I think that really transformed the way people in the United States got their information about the criminal justice system and whatnot. But, in Australia, they had the Chamberlain murder or death of the 2-month-old baby. And the people I know from Australia, they just talk about what a huge sensation that was, how much the publicity surrounding it, and officially that took 32 years for that mother to be officially cleared.
Right, of the Dingo Ate My Baby, that couple.
Yeah,
I remember watching the movie about that. They went through some pretty tough stuff. Nobody believed them. Everybody believed that they were lying. Yeah, that was pretty rough. I remember.
But I think, and Aaron can talk about this more, but I think that was a huge, huge deal at the time. I think it was the trial was fully televised, if I'm not mistaken, and just I mean it was every bit as big as OJ was at the time, and all of that.
Right, in Australia, I think. Right. I remember watching a movie about it probably about 12, 13 years ago. So I'm not super up on that one, but I do remember that they endured a lot of harsh criticism for a lot of years. People didn't believe them. And I seem to recall they eventually did find part of the baby's, the little knitted jacket thing that was around the baby.
Near a dingo lair. We're an area known for dingo lairs. And they had all of these people that came into court and said, oh, this has never been, this is unheard of. There's no documented occurrence of a dingo ever stealing a baby in the history of man. And, so you're making this all up. And so they convicted her of murder, and I believe she got life imprisonment. Her husband got accessory after the fact, whatever they call, in covering up a murder. And he was, I believe he was held for 2.5 years awaiting trial. I may be mistaken on this, but he was given essentially time served. But I think mom was in another 3 or 4 years before they, by total chance, found a piece of clothing.
Yeah.
With the dingo lair, and they had a lot of experts on dingoes after the fact, kind of like the owl situation with the staircase thing,
right?
Saying, this is not unheard of. This is not unheard of at all, and the indigenous tribes in Australia. They were aware of this and taking certain precautions and whatnot, but I'm talking about the sensationalism. I heard it was just huge in Australia. Everybody knew about it, and everybody had an opinion about it.
Right. Yeah, it was a big deal. I know. I remember that movie. I just remember that they were catching a lot of crap on there. Or from the people there, because nobody believed them. And yeah.
But more importantly is how they handled it pre-trial, because that's the big difference. Is and what was horrible about this case, and it happened in the West Memphis 3 case also, is the pre-trial publicity. And we all know about the famous, press conference, and, it kind of snowballed from there. But, it's hopefully now judges will see, nothing good can come out of this. And, if they see something like that happen, a press conference, it's totally inappropriate. They need to publicly slam the prosecutor. And if it's the defense attorney, saying inappropriate comments pre-trial, they need to publicly slam.
Make it clear that that's not acceptable. Absolutely.
Put in a gag order, and really, really nail it down. Of course, the media hates that, but it's not about selling papers and 5 o'clock news ratings. It's about the rights of the defendant being able to have a fair trial.
Right.
That's it. And so, I've never looked at the Chamberlain case as to what the pretrial publicity was, but typically with these miscarriages of justice, there's typically inappropriate pretrial statements to the media. It gets out of hand, and you read that decision by the magistrate judge in Brendan's case, and they're talking about the improprieties of Lynn Kaczynski and the investigator, and they talk about, and you can get this from billing records, but the judge made a special note of it in that 91 or 92 page opinion. He said, Lynn Kaczynski spent, the first, in essence, the first 10 hours of the case, 9 were talking to the media. 1 was actually working on the case. It just went right to his head. And unfortunately, to Brendan's detriment.
Right. See, someone was saying on a scale of 1 to 10, how strong do you feel about the conviction of the West Memphis 3? 11, the prosecutor?
Yeah, well, that was Gitchell, investigator Gitchell. Gitchell. On a scale of 1 to 10, how strong do you think the case is against, 11? And then on deposition, the stepfather, ex-husband of the mother of one of the victims, filed a civil suit against the Dixie Chicks, and
right.
They, in Gary Gitchell was deposed, and it was one of the first things he came out and said in his transcript is, that is for sure one thing he would have done differently is, he never would have uttered that comment. And he said it was pretty stupid on his part. And right. They basically backed him into a position where he was, in essence, saying, I just don't feel it's appropriate for me to, give any opinion about anything.
Right.
They just shrank him. That arrogant, flippant remark, after the last trial, he came out and said, well, I'm retiring. It's great to end on a win. And, they had him all flipped around. And of course, he went into a business as a private investigator, and, all of a sudden they see, oh my gosh, people aren't hiring me because, they don't think I did a very good job in this other case. And,
right.
They just totally silenced him big time.
Right. All right. Well, I think we've covered quite a bit today. I think we're, unless there's anything here burning in the chat, which it doesn't seem like it is. It seems like everybody's kind of, oh yes, everybody hit the like buttons before we go here. Make sure you hit the like. It helps this thing get shared around by YouTube's algorithm, helps more people see it. So please do.
Sorry to disappoint. I know everybody was looking forward to Scooby, but I hope whatever
and
questions
don't worry,
people
I've been
have, I was able to answer. And
yeah, don't worry, I've been talking to Scooby the whole time. We're set up for tomorrow, folks. You're still going to get Scooby. You're going to get Scooby in all of her glory. So just so you know, it's just not tonight, unfortunately. So, but you still get her. She's still coming. Can you comment on the bone?
Is Paul Capaldi still on? I want to give Paul Capaldi the peace sign.
Yeah, I don't think he is.
Oh shoot!
I haven't seen his name in a long time. It's past his bedtime over there. It's like
I think
1 in the morning.
Would know what that means.
Let's see what else we got here because they're so close to 5K subs. Oh well, we'll get there. We'll get there real soon. Let's see. Somebody's asking, can you comment on the bone that was broken and was a bird bone? I'm not 100% certain about that bone you're talking about, Justin. So I'll definitely will have to get back to you on that. How many innocents incarcerated? Yeah, so. Okay, so yeah. I think we're gonna call it there. You guys, as I said, you can look forward to Scooby tomorrow. She's already agreed. She's ready. She's reviewing the questions on the video from earlier today. She's reviewing those questions now. she's going to be prepared and ready to go tomorrow. There with bells, there with bells on, basically. So, so you guys, I'm sorry it didn't happen tonight, but you're still going to get it. I think that's, important. So we're going to go out on Mr. Seabrook here, of course. And if you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see ya. So let's take it out to Stacy.
There's something going on. Freedom is in danger. Agents of the state, they taking children from the manger. Oh, they will sacrifice your kid. Take Brendan Dassey, that's exactly what they did. They needed someone, oh, Jody wouldn't flip. They looked around, saw him quick. Oh, it made so much sense why. Oh, Brendan Dassey, he was Stephen's alibi. There's something going on in Wisconsin that's not kosher. We better stop and let's all take a look closer. Oh, they will sacrifice your kid for Brendan Dassey. That's exactly what they did. They visit him once, they visit him twice. They make him feel so
You're welcome, everybody.
Which is so nice. No cameras rolling and under no lights. Who knows what went on up in Fox Hill Monday night? There's something going on. The freedom is in danger. Everything about this kid getting stranger and stranger. All we know, they will sacrifice your kid. Oh, Brendan Dassey, that's exactly what they did. March 1st, alone in a room with Bert and Ernie. No parent present and no attorney. 4 hours later, with a touch of the knee, they finally get Brendan to agree. There's something going on. I said there's something going on. Oh, they will sacrifice your kid. Take Brendan Dassey, that's exactly what they did. There's something going on. I said freedom is in danger when the agents of the state can take the children from the manger. Oh, they will sacrifice your kid. Take Brendan Dassey, that's exactly what they did. Take Brendan Dassey, oh, that's exactly what they did. Don't get straight, no, oh, I ain't getting straight, don't get straight, I ain't getting straight, I'm sick of the suffering, can't stand the pain, don't get straight. Well, we know the story, oh, ain't the way they say, we can see, they got to Brendan's head, totally insane. Don't get strange. Everything they got, questionable evidence gathered by Manny Wall. But it makes such sense why they're in the game. Don't get strange. Don't get strange, no, oh, now I ain't getting straight, don't get straight. I ain't getting straight. And that lying, that cheating, that predatory sweaty, anything he said
get strange.
Only we find out who's to blame.
He's a legal stain. Kratz is a legal stain, folks. We need to like start hashtagging that on Twitter and everything. Legal stain.
Don't get strange.
All right, folks, and don't forget, in about, I don't know, about half hour, 45 minutes, Travis and I will be discussing Crunch over on my other channel. So if you want to go check that out for a little bit of just fun, not really anything serious, go on, head it over to my other channel. I'm sure my mods will post the link for it here in the live chat. And we'll see you guys. Hit subscribe if you haven't already.